Justin Frenette here, co-founder and CEO of Him and Her and host of the Pre-Con Recon podcast, where we talk about all things brand and marketing in the pre-construction real estate market. I invite leaders to share their knowledge and strategies for success, empowering our community to thrive now and in the future. This episode is brought to you by Him and Her, our creative agency that specializes in exceptional branding for real estate and high-end consumer goods. Over the past 10 years, we've helped shape and launch over $3 billion in pre-construction real estate projects, crafting and executing marketing strategies that deliver extraordinary results. From rentals to sales and from townhomes to master plan communities, we unlock the full value of every project through strategy, brand, and creative execution. If you're launching a pre-construction project and want to learn more, reach out to us at himandher.ca. My guest today is Warren Saunders. Warren is an accomplished sales and marketing leader with extensive experience across all aspects of home building, from design and project management to master plan to community visioning, and successfully navigating Alberta's competitive and dynamic new home market. His deep industry knowledge has positioned him as a trusted advisor to builders and developers, helping them shape many of Calgary's master planned communities while creating efficient, customer-focused solutions for today's home buyers through innovative strategies. Warren's leadership is defined by a clear focus on understanding buyers through research, data, and behavior, insights that are helping lead the new home industry forward. By aligning sales and marketing strategies with how buyers think, search, and decide, he has consistently driven results. Under his guidance, sales teams have earned multiple top sales achievement and customer experience awards, reflecting his commitment to excellence and innovation. Today, Warren is focused on an exciting new challenge, creating a new multifamily brand for Cardel Homes that closes the gap between where home buyers research and make decisions and how and when they decide to purchase, defining Cardel's multifamily division as best-in-class brand. His vision is to leverage technology and modern processes to simplify the home building experience, making it more transparent, efficient, and customer-centric. Warren is passionate about creating an industry-leading brand that is recognized for and delivers simplicity and clarity for today's buyers in an ever more challenging and complex new home buying environment. Warren, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Justin. Great to be here.
Before we dive in, I always ask, what do you actually love about what you do?
Boy, that's a good one. For me, I've always had a passion for this industry, and it started at a young age. So
Okay.
I think I actually drew my first floor plan when I was like 6 years old, but it was actually of a school, not a house.
Okay.
But it's the creativity, it's the constant challenge of really coming up with a strategy and solution for buyers today, and in an ever changing and complex world that we're living in, it's always a great challenge. But I just love the business.
Okay. Now, 6 years old, from there, was that passion always there? When did you first land a job? Did you know first job out of high school, college, university, whatever it was, I'm getting into real estate?
Yeah, I knew kind of when I was going to school that's what I wanted to do. I actually went to school for architectural design, and
Okay.
the first half of my first part of my career was really around designing homes, working for a production builder, understanding that process. But I was very focused on the design aspect, and that's kind of what my passion was when I first started in the industry.
And I'm sure that was quite valuable in your roles later in your career, understanding what people actually live in, having helped design it.
Yeah, it's funny, when I first started designing, I thought I knew a lot about it a year or two in, and when I started getting some complex projects where didn't really know how to design the roof, so I actually decided I was going to work for a roof truss manufacturing company, and one of my goals was actually to learn how to design a roof. So uh, that's kind of where I got into sort of the technical aspect of home building. So
That's amazing. And now in your career journey, I noticed real estate, then software, and then back to real estate, although the software was in real estate. What what led to the change, and why did you jump back into real estate?
Yeah, at that time, I was kind of working at a fairly high level in an executive position, and with that particular business, they sort of restructured their Alberta operations and couldn't really replace that level of role in the industry at that time. So it just happened that one of the organizations that was partnered with us at the time as a preferred lender for mortgage solutions, just through networking, they were interested in me basically for my sales and service experience.
Okay.
And that kind of led into getting involved in other aspects of another industries. But during that time, it just gave me opportunity to explore other things, and I've always had a passion for software and technology, definitely around the real estate industry. And yeah, I just happened to get that opportunity through a mutual connection. And the interesting thing with it was getting into a market that I hadn't worked in before. So we chatted about this a little bit earlier, you and I off the record here, but being involved with the GTA market, working with some large developers, and at the time, working with understanding how to leverage technology to measure demand and create a more streamlined experience for those developments that were launching at that time. So that really kind of gave me good insight into the data side of the business, and really kind of transitioned into I'm very focused on that now in terms of like, how do we use that data better to make decisions, but also, what does the technology side of that look like from a customer perspective?
Yep.
Because I think it's almost two different things that is always a challenge for real estate companies, home building companies around, you've got your ERP side of the business that is usually a little harder to move the dial quickly. And I know we'll probably touch on that in this conversation, but I think there's a real opportunity on the customer facing side with technology that is really going to move the dial for both customers and developers and builders.
Yep. 100%. When we first got into the industry on our side, it was by accident. We had rebranded a brokerage and then brought into our first pre-construction condo. We sold it out in 48 hours, different market, but just just realized how far behind the industry was from our traditional tech clients and consumer goods clients that are at the front edge of using technology and customer experience and brand. And yeah, there's such great power in the data. You can be overwhelmed by it, and some people just ignore it and delete it project by project, which blows my mind. But yeah, now you've designed, you've managed projects, sales, marketing, the software side. Out of all those roles, which gave you the most insight into the market, or which really changed your perspective on the industry as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say when I transitioned into the sales and marketing side of the business, it really allowed me to build off the foundation from my operations side,
Okay.
where I kind of learned the fundamentals of building, and it allowed me to kind of align that with how customers interact with that side of the business. And then really it's around like how we use market research and data to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And it really intrigued me with like the competitive and strategic side of the business that I've always had. Um, so I would say that would be definitely the role that really kind of sparked that.
Okay. Amazing. Now, your current role, sales and marketing manager for multifamily, what does that really mean day to day? I always ask this because the titles don't can mean various different things, developer by developer, builder by builder. So what do you do day to
Yeah.
day?
So for me, really day to day is about having like a relentless, consistent focus on how our brand's positioned in the market, and then being the leader in terms of where we are with our position in our market with that,
Okay.
and then just trying to focus on providing incredible value and quality for people that are seeking home ownership. On the sales side, it's really about ensuring our team is focused on a seamless experience for our customers,
Mm-hmm.
with a really professional approach that aligns with our brand, and helps provide a clear path to home ownership. We're super focused on the home ownership side because we feel it's a real maybe underserved opportunity in terms of the condo market, where that sometimes has a perception of being just an investment. I strongly feel that's changing rapidly, and we're needing to align with that.
Yeah. And ultimately, you end up making a better product for a potential investor, anyways, because the investor wants somebody to live in that unit. So we should be designing
Right.
homes that people are going to live in. Now, early on in your career, did you have any mentors that really shaped who you are today, how you work today?
Yeah, there's probably too many to mention. I was really lucky coming up at the time that I did in the home building industry and in our market here, where there was a lot of legacy home builders that really were good at passing information down and kind of taking some of the younger professionals coming up in the business sort of under their wing. There's probably two or three that I can mention. One would be a gentleman named Dennis Zentner. So Dennis was an owner in Gino Windows, which turned into Ply Gem here in the Alberta market. And I was selling at the time. It was my first sales position that I ever had, and I probably had the luxury of having one of the best mentors in the industry with Dennis, because he really was hands on. Even though he was an owner, he would really sort of take time and like shadow you, listen to how you're speaking to customers, give you advice, and then later on, as I grew through my career, he would always take an interest in how I was doing and check in, and just a great person. And I always had a ton of respect for Dennis. And then another one would probably be a gentleman named Wilf Schmidt. So Wilf was actually a smaller custom builder that I worked for a number of years with, and really learned a lot about home building fundamentals. I transitioned from basically learning, taking my experience in design and then getting the opportunity to work side by side with someone that is actually hands on with the company. So I learned a lot on the estimating, project management, trade relationships. Really fortunate that Wilf actually, worked really closely with me to really understand the business. And then I would say, this one's interesting for me because this person is actually someone that gave me my first opportunity in home building as a sales manager. And he's also my current boss. So Mike Sellinger is his name. Mike is our regional president for Cardel in Alberta. Years ago, Mike actually gave me the opportunity to be the sales manager for Cardel when they were the largest builder in volume at that time in Calgary. And I was a brand new sales manager. So, he really taught me a lot about, leadership in terms of how you create structure and have a system of how you manage a team of people, but also just his demeanor on how he works with everyone that's under him in terms of his approach and being sort of transparent and genuine. It's something I still look up to and sort of try to live up to this day.
Amazing. All sound amazing. Now, Cardel Homes, tell us, who are they? What do they do? And really, what makes them different? Why did you land there, and why do you stay at Cardel?
Sure. So Cardel Homes, is a company that's, I would call it a legacy company in the Calgary market, in the Alberta market. We've been around for over 50 years. The company started back in 1973, and it started as a family-run operation and still is to this day. So there's a lot of values from that I think transcend our team and who we are as a company. And then, as far as size and operation, we're operating in 4 different cities. So in Canada, we're in Calgary and Ottawa. And in the US, we're in Denver and Tampa. And we've been in those locations for quite a few years and gone through different market changes in both the US and Canada. So it's the one thing I think, in terms of like our company is we've been resilient through all those years and all those different changes in market conditions. I think what makes Cardel who we are, and that it hasn't changed and has a lasting sort of value across sort of what we've been doing over the years is attention to quality. I mean, I know everyone talks about that, but the one thing that I think is different with it with Cardel is we have people that have worked with in our company for 20, 25 years and have been able to um, basically demonstrate what that means in terms of how we bring projects on, how we think through how a building is designed, scrutinizing the details and value engineering things in a way that ensures that it's going to be long lasting. People are going to be proud to live in those homes.
Mm.
Another sort of hallmark of Cardel is our architecture and attention to exterior detailing and being true to what we're doing with the architecture of our homes and condo projects that we're bringing on. So, some of that is going to be coming out in our new project that we're doing in our multifamily division, where we really sort of like introduced a new style of architecture for our market.
Okay.
And that took a lot of work and effort to really see that vision through so that we can deliver something that isn't necessarily always presented in this form in this type of market segment. And we want our home buyers to be proud of where they live, and
Yeah.
that's a consistent pillar of Cardel's brand. And then I would say the third one would be the people that we choose to have in our operation and that work with us as trades and suppliers and development partners. We're very deliberate about ensuring that our values are aligned and that we treat our whole team as not just the people that work in our office and in our construction sites, but we really value those relationships that we've had for years with our suppliers and trade partners as well, and our developer partners.
Yep. Amazing. Yeah, the care you can tell, and a lot of time it's just the combination of all those small things that can be difficult to show tangibly, but it does show up in a lot of time in the
Right.
small details. Now, that new project, is that what you're most excited about? What's coming up, or what do you have going on now that
Yeah.
that really gets you out of bed?
Yeah, 100%. It's so we're basically creating our new multifamily division under the Cardel brand, and it's really been a unique opportunity to look at things from a whole new lens in terms of starting from scratch, but also having the foundation of being able to leverage the Cardel brand and history and team of people that we have that we work with to bring that on. So you can see actually the buildings behind me on the wall right now. So we're calling it a modern vintage architecture, and it's something that we really studied our market and really wanted to make sure that we were providing something that was, I would say, leaving a lasting impression, and it's particularly important because it's the first building in our first site within our own community. So our community or our master plan community is called Silverton, and it's a 8 to 10 year project, which basically encompasses 9 different multifamily sites,
Okay.
probably 1,800 to, we could go up to 2,000 units if the market dictates that, but
Yep.
we're really focused on our first site and being able to really, what we've done is basically found a unique sort of spot where we feel that is being a bit underserved, but
Mm.
also um, making it easier for people to buy, as well as providing the best value we can with it. So, a couple things just really quickly on it with the architecture is we're introducing things like, a Lux panel vertical siding on that you would normally see like on a downtown commercial building, and a brick podium architecture that in our market typically you wouldn't see in a suburban condo development. So these are things that are kind of combining historical architecture with contemporary in a way that we haven't seen before in our market. So we worked really hard at that with our architect and our team to really make it exciting.
That's great. And it's important those details, especially standing out in the market. It's so easy to fall into throwing up cookie cutter things that have worked, but people do take just as much pride in the building and the envelope they live in, just as if it was a single family home too. And that can really help differentiate you, especially in a more challenging market where there's a lot of choice.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. So that's an exciting project. Obviously, then you're going to be leading a sales team on that project and other projects. What right now would you say is the hardest part in leading a sales team?
Yeah, I mean it's probably usually related to the different types of markets that you're working in.
Yep.
Whether it's a high demand market or whether it's a more balanced market. So I think as a sales leader, your main focus is navigating those transitions between those markets and keeping the consistency for buyers so that they don't feel like it's impacting them. So, we're basically staying focused on helping customers enter the market and tailoring those conversations to the different types of buyers. I think
Yep.
that's the biggest thing right now is because of the more balanced market that we're operating in, you can't just pigeonhole who those buyers are. And we're doing a lot of sort of research to make sure that we're aligning with that, and then we're training our teams to be tailored in their conversation. So, like an example would be parents co-buying with children. Not
Yep.
only are you having a conversation with the parents in a way that resonates with them, but then you're having to switch your conversation a little bit more with that their children that they're buying with because they might want to receive that a bit differently, and that goes with the marketing as well. So it isn't a simple task. You really have to know that segment, know who those buyers are, and the best way to set up your teams to basically align with, okay, here's the marketing messaging that's going out to resonate with that buyer. But let's make sure that we have a connected experience with our in-person experience with our sales team. That's a big one right now. So that's where we spend a lot of time with the team in terms of maybe that's the harder part of what we're doing right now.
Okay. And then what that extra communication, the tailored messaging, really knowing your audience, is that the core thing that separates your teams that win awards and hit milestones and achieve top success? Or what would be the you think the magic sauce or the magic pill? It's not magic, it's hard work, but what's the thing that
Yeah.
separates a winning team from a struggling team?
Yeah, like I've always measured sales team success not just by sales, but by a combined sales and service. And I kind of learned that, through my career where truly a high performing team is, yes, sales are important, but how you deal with someone and how you work with someone through that process is even more important. And that comes to customer experience. It comes down to referral rate. Those are the teams that set themselves above everyone else. So I would say, understanding, like for me, I talk about a few things with our sales team. So, a couple things that I kind of focus on would be, understanding the difference between being a salesperson and what I call being a sales pro. So we train around that in terms of what that means for not only our team, but how that gets translated to the customer experience. Teams that I've had that are successful in sales and customer experience they have traits like seeing challenges as real opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and embracing those and looking to find solutions and being part of that solution. Really, really good sales teams are expecting that, and then they're understanding that that's kind of where they really kind of stand out for their customers is when they embrace that.
Yep.
um, and then maybe the third point would be like, they hold themselves accountable to a higher standard. And so, that means the experience our customers are going to get when they meet with our team is going to feel different. And I say feel different because that's the way it should be. Is it's a feeling they get after they meet with our team. So
Mm-hmm.
we want it to feel natural. We want it to feel that they're going to walk away feeling very trusting through their
Yep.
experience with Cardel.
I love it. Yeah. The feeling's definitely a big one of our uniques is that we have fun. Like we're A, we're not curing cancer, but B, a lot of
Right.
things, launching projects, websites, branding, there could be moments where it's difficult and you're trying to get over certain challenges. But at the end, you look back and be like, oh, I enjoyed my time working with my coworkers or my client, because that's an important aspect
Absolutely.
of it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, speaking of branding, you mentioned, you're helping drive the new multifamily brand inside Cardel Homes. What was the opportunity or the problem that you saw that really triggered this initiative? Why was now the right moment?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the heart of what we're focused on. So, we're really looking at how do we provide a best in class sort of product and solution to the most common challenges and things that people have stress over when they're associated with buying a new construction condo, and it's specifically for those people that are focused on home ownership. So, through sort of our research and talking to previous customers, talking to realtors that are participating in that market, really it's all around simplifying the process and removing the complexity that creates that stress and uncertainty.
Mm,
One thing I talk to our team about is like we're dealing with downsizers, we're dealing with people that are maybe having a lifestyle change, and so a lot of the reasons that people are buying our types of products are usually going through a major sort of either new thing in their life or a change or transition. So really having an understanding of what that means is really important. So, you know, when you talk about simplifying the buying process, a lot of that comes down to being transparent with
mhm.
what that value statement is. And so we're doing things like ensuring that people understand that, hey, what you see is what you get. It's delivered at the very best price without the worry of adding extra cost,
Yep.
and it's delivered with our quality that Cardell is known for. And you know, if you break it down into a few different sort of pillars, for us, it's right about being priced right,
Yep.
being in a great location, delivering that trusted quality, and just having a memorable experience. So we keep those things in mind every day as we're working on how we better serve our customers and how we attract customers that's going to resonate with them.
Yep. And so, with that, how will you know you succeeded? Obviously, every project is successful or not in terms of it sells or not. But with this new initiative on that customer journey, how are you measuring? Is it conversations, surveys? How are you going to know you did it?
Well, you look at it in stages because obviously when we're selling pre-construction, there's stages of
Yep.
measuring how well you're doing with it. So number one is our registrations that we receive for a new project, and we've done a really good job of that. I'm really proud of what we've done on our digital side to lean into that and get creative with it in a way that is working for us. So not to give any secrets away, but that's something that's worked really well for us, and we're pleased with that. And then obviously, buyers will tell us, right? They'll tell us
Mhm.
if we're succeeding. They'll tell us when they're coming in before they've even purchased, if we're hitting the mark, if we're on the right track. And so we kind of look at it in stages. And then our last stage would be, we're focused on customer referral. We want everyone to have a great
Mhm.
experience. We want to make sure that our experience is aligned with something that's making sense for those types of buyers.
Yep.
And we have a heavy focus at Cardell on all aspects of our business in terms of our reputation and ability to deliver a great experience. So,
Yeah, that's so important because a referral is infinitely more valuable than any marketing dollar you could spend to bring a cold person in.
for sure.
And what about branding? Branding a new community of this size, branding Cardell Homes, this multifamily. What's one major mistake you think some developers or builders have when they approach branding?
From my own opinion, I would say over branding and under explaining. So, an example maybe where you're leading with lifestyle language and buzzwords instead of clearly communicating value, price, and certainty. I think that can be maybe a mistake that is made. I think in simple terms, builders sometimes will talk about aspiration before answering practical buyer questions, or hiding or complicating pricing, or using marketing that doesn't match the in-person sales experience. That's a big one. So, those are things that are kind of top of mind for me that I focus on with our team.
Okay. And then how does that flow into, let's say, sales centers? My understanding, you've got a new Metro One sales center. How does that brand come in the right amount in a sales center? And with this recent sales center, is there anything else you've done different than maybe you have in the past?
Yeah, I think the one thing, we're in a presentation center right now, before construction. And the one thing that we really focused on here was same thing we were just talking about, is simplicity. I think sometimes the sales center design and sort of engagement can almost be too busy. So we're really focused on what the pathing is like, the key core sort of areas of information that are really key to helping buyers make decisions. So the big thing we focused on was the ability for our team to convey information based on customer preferences. So one thing, over the years I've seen is, now that we have a little bit of tech to help with that, that could be, whether it's providing a community overview visually, geographically, or amenity based. Our displays and tools and technology is set up in a way to allow our sales conversations to feel seamless and aligned with tools that resonate with buyers. And this was a key part of our technology implementation, was providing that flexibility within one platform versus buyers needing to go in and out of separate web pages or marketing handouts, or creating confusion or frustration, versus a connected and simplified experience. So part of that is in our, we have the ability to have traditional display, because we do have customers that prefer that.
Yep.
But then we also have the ability to transition to a conversation where you're getting questions asked where you want to be able to convey that visually. We can do that, and we can do it, so an example would be when you're trying to understand the project and you want to understand price, availability, what does it look like, what's the floor plan. Our system is set up in a way where you can answer those questions one after another and then go back in really quickly. So you're more focused on the conversation you're having with someone in front of you versus trying to find where that's the best way to show that information. So the feedback we've been getting in our new sales center is that it's been a real easy conversation. People feel really comfortable when they're leaving. And that's kind of, again, that's that feeling aspect of what we're focused on, so that it's all about what's the customer feeling when they leave, and how does that, translate into next step.
That's great. And you've a couple themes there in that. I think you already answered my next question, which was technology can genuinely help, but it also can add a lot of noise. And it sounds like you've done a really great focused effort on what's the right amount of technology to really focus on the customer and their conversation, because you can get really excited by this piece of tech and this fancy thing and just throw as much of it in as you can. Now, would you say your time on the software side at Avesdo, has that really helped change how you see things and being able to bring that right balance, having been on both sides?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's two aspects to that. There's the sort of the builder side of things that allows you to help the customer with information. And I think that the big thing I took away from, that aspect of bringing technology in is it underlined the importance of data and decision making on the sales and marketing side of things, for sure. But it also highlighted the opportunity that technology had from a customer perspective. That's what I kept focusing on when I was working within that sort of space, was always thinking about what the customer is thinking when they're actually utilizing this. So what I learned from that was, a lot of software was being developed on solving specific segments of the process.
Yep.
And it was really hard, being able to see something that was more of an integrated approach. As a builder and developer, those were really hard to implement, or can be hard to implement because you're having to add multiple solutions together to make it work seamlessly.
Yep.
I think what I'm seeing now from the prop tech side is it's getting better and better with that in terms of solutions and the time frame to get those solutions implemented and in market is better.
Yep.
But it just underscored the importance of always keeping the customer experience front and center to ensure that the tech is being developed or prioritized as a solution that's always aligned with the customer
Yep.
that's going to be using it. And I went through that a little bit too, where developing different functionality and solutions for clients that I had, where you're also wanting to be not just necessarily focusing on the things that you need out of it. It's like the customer is really telling us that they only need this and this. And I think that's one thing I learned too, is a lot of the tech was always going too far and too deep. And then it's like, that's just too much.
Yeah.
So, I've tried to kind of think about that on the things that we've implemented with Cardel and in our Metro One project as well, in terms of making sure it's relevant and not going too deep with something where it gets to the point where it just doesn't make sense for someone to even go further with it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a fine line, and one that we'll continue to be working with all the time.
Definitely. Okay, and then as you're dealing with the buyer, what do you find a small thing that builds a lot of trust, from whether it's the first interaction with an ad, the first email, the first sales center visit, out of that whole stream, what do you think builds the most trust with a buyer?
Yeah, I think it's like fundamentally, it's clear, honest answers, even when the answer isn't perfect. Pricing, timelines, trade offs, and really, like, transparency beats polish every time. And that's something that we're super focused on, is not being afraid of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen every market developer is different too, but even some of the APSs we've helped consult on, not legally, but just how do you have an opening front that summarizes your deal versus the rest in the back? Because I've seen some, like you're saying, being transparent, where it's just pages and pages of this or that and this fee and this fee, and you're just like, at the end you're like, so what's the actual cost of what I'm buying? I think you can also overcomplicate it there. It's
Yes.
not perfect. It's a complicated purchase, and it's a complicated thing developers and builders are making, but I think there can be some more transparency even at that step of a multi-step process.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
So buyers now in today's market, lots of technology, lots of shifting dynamic. What do you think buyers demand now that was unthinkable 10 years ago, but is possible now? Or honestly, vice versa. What was possible 10 years ago that is unthinkable today?
Yeah, I think 10 years ago, for buyers, to research and obtain all the information they need before visiting a sales center, maybe wasn't at the capacity or level it is now. So being able to get all those answers up front, that's a really big change in how people shop and buy for new homes. That's really impacting how we're sort of needing to align with that. I think honestly, since COVID, when things went more online, you've definitely seen how that's had an impact on that gap between where people make decisions and where they actually visit a presentation center or a sales center. That gap's getting bigger. So we, as builders and developers, need to align with that and make sure that we're not scared of that, but it's a natural occurrence, and knowing how to align with that to still have a good experience and give the people the information they need. I think it's been a bigger change for our sales teams because um, they're knowing that customers are coming in that have done a lot of homework. So we spend a lot of time on our sales team understanding the market, um, training on what that looks like, how we're positioned, what's going on in the resale, what's going on in the new construction market. Because we need to be at that level and more, to be trusted.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Warren, one last question. With everything you've done, seen, what still excites you about building and selling homes? What gets you out of bed?
From a business standpoint, I still love competing and seeing my teams I work with have success. So that always keeps me motivated and excited. That's probably the sports background in me that
Mm,
I love competing. And you always are in business. So, and then from the customer perspective, it's just the challenge of understanding what buyers are going through and being able to develop communities and products and projects that help solve those problems, and provide solutions for people in the market. I love that challenge. And with both of those things, it's something I take a lot of pride in, and I feel really good about every day when you go to work, knowing that you're doing what we're doing in our industry is a very important piece of people's lives every day. So as builders and developers, I've said this, I say this statement sometimes with our team. It's like we have an obligation to put our very best foot forward every day, to create the best solution for home buyers. That's what keeps me going.
yep, I love it. The sports rec, my partner and wife, she'll love that. She was a big sports growing up, baseball, basketball, all of it. And
Yeah,
one of our team values, because you nailed it, it's one of our values is play to win because it is a competition. All business is, but like I said before, you can have some fun while you do it, and you're doing it with people, and the teamwork aspect is such a big element, and you nailed
absolutely.
all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, Warren, thanks for joining me on the Pre-Con Recon podcast, brought to you by him and her.
Thanks, Justin.